Welcome to part 2 of creating a little fungi in a jar needle felted mushroom kit. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I don't know what you're doing, but you should probably watch part 1. All right, so we have this little nipply mushroomy shape. And what does it need? It needs some polka dots. All right, so with the white wool, you're gonna notice that this white wool is a different sort of texture than the red, if you really kind of pay attention to it. The red is from a farm over in Italy. It's from a dyeing house gallery in Italy because, again, like I said, I like fancy wool when I make clothes. It's nice and soft. And it's just a slightly different product, whereas the white wool is from a local farm. And they're awesome too, just a different texture. So for this, we're not going to need a whole lot. We're just going to need like a little, can you see, a little strand. And you can start by either, actually, why don't we do this? Like ball it up into like a little circle with your fingers. And then you're going to put it on wherever you want it on your mushroom, and you're going to start kind of just stabbing it into place. You can make it bigger by kind of like moving the wool out and spreading that wool out, or you can make it smaller by like with the stabs, just kind of like stabbing it into itself a little bit more. And yes, it's going to come through on the other side a little bit, and that's okay. You can kind of pop it through a little bit, but just know when you do that from the opposite side, you're probably going to get a little bit of red wool coming through with it. So if you want these polka dots to be really white, just be a little bit careful about poking it through to the other side. And you know that it's in place when it kind of becomes flush with the top. All right, I'm going to do one more and then we'll move on to the next part. So we're just getting like a little wisp with our fingers, and then we're balling it up. If you want to put one of these on like the little pointy top, I would fold over your piece like a little hat and then just start pushing it through. Be a little bit, you're gonna have to go a little bit slower with this and kind of go at an angle where you're pushing it down into instead of straight through. So a little bit more of a advanced move, just because if you keep pushing it straight on, some of the white's going to come through the other side. But if you hit it at an angle and kind of push it down into, you'll have just a little polka dot on the side. See that? Okay, so I'm gonna, if you want to pause this, you can go ahead and pause it and make the rest of your polka dots. But again, by the power of television, I'm going to move on to the next part, which is taking your jar, which I forgot to grab a jar, so hang tight 1 second. Oopsie. Okay, here's your jar. Now your jar is going to have 2 little bags in it, and one of them is going to have some of the green grass, like moss stuff, and then there's also going to be a little tiny stick pre-cut for you. So let's set this over here. Okay, so you want to take off that little cork bottom, and everything is going to be glued onto the cork. So everything's going to be glued onto this little cork. So make sure that you're gluing onto the smaller side of the cork that's kind of like angled in, so that you're just double check that when you start gluing things on. Okay, all right, so here we got our little cork, and we have our little mushroom all ready to rock and roll. So all we're going to do is take our little stick and just put like a tiny bit of hot glue on there. So teeny tiny bit. Teeny tiny bit. And you're going to glue it right onto the bottom of your little mushroom. And you can kind of like push down the mushroom and just kind of like sculpt it sort of with your hands to get a nice mushroomy shape by doing what my fingers are doing right now, kind of going along the edges. Now we get this little mushroom. And now you're gonna put a little tiny glue in the middle of your cork. Just a little tiny dab. Trying to avoid any of those hot glue stringy things. And you're gonna glue this right into the middle of your cork. And you'll need to hold it there for a second, just kind of pushing it down. There goes my cat in the background. Yep. Just kind of hold it into place for a couple seconds, maybe longer than I'm holding mine because it keeps coming unglued. So just holding it in, letting that glue dry until it kind of sits up on its own. And I should have cut these short enough where that little mushroom's gonna fit right inside that jar, the little sticks, or the little branches, whatever you want to call them. So now you've got your little mushroom glued onto your little cork. Again, it's on the smaller side, so it's like angled up, and so it's on the top. And now you'll just take some of that grass. There's the grass. I kind of spread it out a little bit. Kind of like open it up a little bit. And then I'll just take and put a little glue around the base on that cork. You see? Just like a little string. If you want to go like section by section, you can do that, but I just do like a whole circle around because I've made a lot of these. See the little glue on there? And then I just start sticking the grass on all the way around. And just be a little bit careful. My fingers are definitely not scared of hot glue anymore. But just be a little careful. You don't want to burn yourself or, you know, end up with moss on your fingers. And just kind of stick it in there as best you can. Now, if you wanted to add any other little things to it, sometimes people like to add other little plants, things that they found outside. You can do that now before you, or even like little characters or anything, you can do that now before you put the lid on. For now, ooh, drop it, there we go. You've got your little mushroom, and now you put on your little jar top. And you've got your cute little mushroom in a jar. Now my favorite thing to do is to sign the bottom and maybe write some kind of mushroomy little pun like, I love you so much. Get it? Sign your cute little name. And you're ready to go. I would love to hear any mushroom puns or any mushroom jokes in the comments. And you know where to find me. I'm blackboots.com. I spell that BLCKBTS.com. And you can sign up there for my newsletter. And anytime that I am in the area or releasing new little kits, that's the best way to keep in touch and or follow me on social media. All right, I think you're great. And I can't wait to see any of the mushrooms in a jar that you make.